Okay, so we're using Prussian blue and titanium buff for the jeans. I'm going to keep it simple. Thank you, Yana, for suggesting the color. It's perfect. And I'm just going to put the first layer. To cover the canvas. I'm using a round brush. It's medium size. Later on, I want to show you, I don't know if you've seen, there's an artist, she does, I follow her on Instagram, but I found her on Pinterest. She does those demos fast, you know. She's using oil, but it's really, really nice. I'll show you a couple of her paintings. Follow her because she posts a lot, you know, from time to time she posts videos.
What is your name?
I can't remember the name.
Okay.
So I like personally to start painting the surface covering the canvas and in dark so I can highlight. So this is good, it gives me the shape. Now I'm going to take titanium buff, mix it. That's kind of a medium. It doesn't really have to be exactly the same. So medium tone will dry darker. And then I can highlight a little bit more slowly. I like to add my highlights slowly. So I don't like to, you know, jump from one highlight to straight to a strong one. I like to add them slowly, especially folds with fabric. Okay, good. A little bit here. It's not a lot of darks in here. If you look at the reference, you'll notice that this part of the leg where I'm painting, there's not a lot of darks in there. Strong folds. Folds are on the other side, are stronger. The dark is stronger here. So it's a soft kind of medium tone right now. If I could start, I can start with dark here, light here at the same time. But it's harder to do. This is easier. If you start with a dark surface and then you put medium tone and then you start highlighting slowly, it's easier. Because I can concentrate now on only the highlights instead of doing both at the same time, dark and light. Really not concerned about the detail too much. Now I'm going to dip my brush in water because it's dry. And take more titanium buff, add it to the blue I have here. Wipe my brush. And now I'm going to go where I see the stronger highlight. So here is not that strong right there. So I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to start here where there's a strong highlight. So slowly, I'm building up my highlights. And honestly, even if you're not doing exactly the same what you see in the picture, by building your highlights slowly, you're giving it a softer transition from dark to light, and it's much more realistic. And I'm taking my time. Don't rush. Take your time. Okay. Dip my brush and the tip of my brush in water. Pick some paint. Wipe my brush softly. Now here it's softer, not too many folds. One down here, stronger. One fold down here. Okay. All right. Now this part, and this part is kind of what I'm doing right now. It's my brush stroke is not straight. So this part of the leg is kind of under the knee or behind knee part. So it turns, okay, I'll show you. My brush stroke is not straight. It's like this, kind of a bit, just a bit. There's a bit of a curve. Is this part of the leg in the back, right here, is it called calf?
Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, that's the calf. Okay. I'm gonna highlight more. Take titanium buff. So I highlighted, I went from dark to medium. Now I'm going to start adding a couple of folds in the fabric. In here, there's not a lot. But there's quite a bit of a highlight now, just a bit. slowly. Sometimes fold in that jeans, let's say, it's a bit kind of complicated. We really don't want to follow exactly what's happening in there. There's like a zigzag and there's this, it's interesting in a photo, but if you try sometimes to do the same thing in a painting, it looks a bit weird. So I simplify. Sometimes if it's too, a bit too complicated, I simplify it. Whoever is looking at the painting is not comparing with the original. They just want to see, you just want to show highlighted genes. I try to pay attention to values, lights and darks. That's what, more than the shape of the fold. Well, the shape of the fold is important, but value is really important too. Now, see this part? It looks very dark on the monitor, but it's really not that dark here. I'm going to highlight it a tiny bit more. So I'm just using same colors. I'm using, because this is the first layer. So usually first layer is dark, because I didn't have anything else with that. I didn't put anything else. So now I'm using the blue, the Prussian blue, and I'm using a tiny bit of titanium buff, because Prussian blue drying very dark. And it's going to dry darker here, dark here. Okay, let's take a touch of titanium buff, put it in my Prussian blue, wipe my brush. If I find that the folds are too strong between dark and light, there's a jump, a strong jump. I'm softening this jump in darks and lights in value. Now I have I'm adding more titanium buff. Just few small, soft, actually they're not looking soft at all, but I will soften them in a minute. Light blue. Okay. Mid-tone. It's much better. I'm going to try to soften a bit the fabric here. Don't want it to be too many folds. It doesn't look good. Okay, this is good. I think this is fine, this one here. That should be okay. I'm going to let it dry a bit and see how it goes. Okay, for the boots, raw umber and titanium buff. So I'm going to start putting titanium buff. Not titanium buff, I mean raw umber, I'm sorry.
Then titanium buff, right?
I mean raw umber, raw umber. Okay, I'm going to need a bit of dark with this raw umber. So probably I'll use black. I mean, I can use blue, any blue, but I'm going to use black. You know, brown and blue will give you a very nice dark brown, dark, like almost like a black. But I think the best one would be ultramarine blue and burnt umber. So if you mix these two, you'll get a nice dark, almost black. But this is good too. This is black, ivory black, and raw umber. Okay, let's let it dry. Now, raw umber, black, Okay. Now I'm going to introduce titanium buff. Let's introduce titanium buff, but no black. So titanium buff and raw umber, no black, because black is changing the, when I highlight my color, the black is changing the color of raw umber into a gray, and we need it more like a brown. So when I'm starting to highlight, there's no black. Actually, you know, I might need to add a bit of, let's see, first. Okay, so instead of titanium buff to highlight, I'm highlighting with Naples yellow. Because titanium buff is making the color a bit too faded and, you know, like a blah color. I'm going to go to medium tone. Just go in. Oops, actually darker than medium. Just go back to raw umber to adjust because the highlights are strong, too strong. Yeah, that's better. I'm going to simplify those highlights. Okay, let's highlight this part. I'm going to leave this alone for a minute. So I'm adding a little bit more. It's good. raw umber in here, raw umber that has a bit of titanium buff. I'm changing my brush into a smaller one for the highlights. Round, small brush. The tip of the boot is highlighted. This part is highlighted. And the rest is actually dark. This is a touch of black, just black. And I'm just gonna give it at the bottom a bit of movement. Same, this is very hard to see what's going on with this one. Really hard to see. But I'm gonna give her just a dark line at the bottom here, just a bit. So it looks like we can see the bottom of the shoe. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. That's good enough.